This question about Clemson is one that we've gotten a version of a lot. Listen to this. If Clemson has another 10-2 season, is it considered a failure for Dabo Swinney? What does he need to do this year to get everyone believing in him again? From LaBelle, Florida. I never stopped believing in Dabo Swinney. Some of you may have, so I don't know if I'm in the majority or minority. I cannot imagine after one slightly down year, everyone's sold on Dabo Swinney. If you did, it couldn't be just for football reasons. I'll put it that way. So I do know that there are some people out there who are skeptical. I've spoken to some coaches, mainly the ones who aren't in the ACC, who are skeptical because they look and they see the attrition and they see the down performance at quarterback last year and they know that he lost his coordinators. And my whole point with Clemson, regardless of what happens this year, I happen to think they'll be good this year. Okay, I'm kind of on the record with that already. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be right there in the ACC championship game. That's what I think about them. But the question is, what if they lose 2 games? Well, it's not the end of the world if you lose 2 games, would be my immediate response. The follow-up to that is there's this haze collectively that has set in the college football public when it comes to Clemson. My advice is this is applicable to Clemson fans too, quite frankly. Don't let 5 minutes overtake 50 years worth of pent-up historical logic. You've learned things. History has taught you things about what historically should be the norm at Clemson. It's not what you've seen over the past 5 or 6 years. History has told you that's the outlier. And yet now it's become the expected norm. And so we've got questions right now. What if they do fill in the blank, and then in that blank it says 10 wins? 10 wins would have been one of the best seasons in program history before this run started. And now we're asking questions like, is it a failure? Do we give up on the guy? Do we sell him down the river? Is it time for next man up? That's a little hyperbolic. Not far away from reality, though. No, of course you don't. What reality is, I know not everyone wants to live on this planet, but what reality is they should struggle. It should be hard to replace those coordinators. You don't get to tell me for years how stable that coaching staff is and how integral a role they play in your success and then lose them and say, oh, no big deal, we'll replace them. No, it's either one or the other. You lost a generational defensive coordinator in Brent Venables. It's not just plug and play, or it shouldn't be. Now, if it is, then that's a testament to Dabo Swinney. He's built a rock-solid culture up there. It's one of the best programs in America. So I guess when you tell me people are giving up on Dabo Swinney, I don't think you know much about Dabo Swinney, firstly. Or if you did know something, maybe you've forgotten over the course of a few months. The second thing is, it used to be that even some of the greatest coaches in history in another generation were given time to have multiple years of struggle. You know Bear Bryant at Alabama is one of the best of all time. Go check out the latter 60s, early 70s with Bryant, especially the late 60s. Go check out the late 60s. They got jilted out of a national championship in 66, but then look at the subsequent years. What would happen if that were in 2022? Would Bryant have even been afforded the ability to go on the run he went on in the 70s? Or would college football collectively have said, game's passed him by, he's lost it? You're talking about a couple of years where if you applied the modern standards, Bama would be struggling to make a bowl. But then he got it right. There was this thing called the wishbone that came along too, played a pretty big role. And all of a sudden, I think he lost less than half a dozen conference games in the entire decade of the 70s or something like that. There's some absurd stats. But my point is with Dabo Swinney, it used to be that last year's not even a blip on the radar screen. Last year's looked at as a good year if you applied past generations' standards. But there are untenable standards applied today. Why? Because you get paid a lot of money, which of course doesn't change what reality is, but no one wants to have that conversation. So to answer the question, no, I won't be giving up on him. If they win 10 games this year, I would call it a good year. Even by Clemson standards, I would call it a good year.